Alright, here we go. Let's talk about spotting and scouting. More so passive scouting. I'm going to use the VK2801 in this video because of two reasons. One is one of the tier 6 scouts with the least camo. Maybe even the one with the least at all. Like overall really bad camo for scout tank. But two, and that's the more important part, this is the scout tank I've been driving for maybe the longest time. The high tier scout, that is. Mainly because it was my first tier 6, back then tier 5 scout. And I have a good crew with it and I know how to deal with it. And that's one of the most important parts when it comes to scout tanks. You have to know how to play it and you have to experience playing it for a long time to really get the best out of it. Now for the VK28, it's basically more of a combat scout. It's pretty bulky, it's pretty big. You can see T25-2 is pretty much as big as I am in size. Therefore it's kinda hard to hide it. However, I have 100% camo and a camo net and all the shenanigans. Scouting. In general, passive scouting. Now in this map in particular, there's several spots you can use. I'll up this up a little bit. There are the bushes over here that you can use along these lines, depending on how good your camera is and how good how much you believe your team to support you. You can move up further down the line along these lines. I mostly on H or J, and then you spot the guys like when they come up to try to go to the city, or the one I'm going to. Make this slow. When I'm going to is down in the river. Now, there you go. Typical scouting problem. Like a little bomb and armor outage effect. Typical. Nothing bad really. Repair it quickly, get to your scouting position. That's the most important thing. Binocs are mandatory for all scouts, of course. Camo nets are also. You can use vents, rammers, whatever you want as the third equipment, depending on your scout. I used to use rammers on this, but with the recent mission I put on vents. And this is basically it. You're gonna see that I'm not moving at all the time. I'm just staying here. Passive scouting. Now as you can see I have a mod for the minimap that shows me my view ranges, estimated ones. Doesn't take binocs into the equation. You can see that in a moment when I spot a Yak Panther 2. And basically this is really nice just to know, and there you go, spotted him. Taking my aim at him, not to shoot, just to see how far he's away. Just to know how far it is for me to see him. And this is something important too, because when you see how far he's away, you can kind of guess. After a while you know when you get spotted and when you don't get spotted. So you can decide to, this is not good. Especially if you don't have Sixth Sense, you want to know how far an enemy is away. Because then you can say, I'm rather not feeling good with this, and try to avoid him. Now, of course, I'm looking around here a little bit, want to see if I can see someone else, or someone could maybe see me. And I'm just standing still. I will not move in any stretch of the imagination, because as soon as I move, I might get spotted. Yeah, look at that. T-44 is right next to me. Gets blapped just in the face. So scouting is a lot about being patient, about your positioning and your situational awareness. These three things you have to have. Without them, you're pretty much doomed to die, and it's gonna be a rough ride to learn them if you don't have them already. For example, what I'm doing right now, if you can see this, I'm still aiming at stuff. Figuring it out here, 330 meters. He could spot me if something happens. And the idea behind this aiming at someone, even though you're not shooting, is in case that you're spotted, you can get it off one shot and then get the hell out of there because you're spotted anyway. Now, I'm also, again and again, whenever I have time, there's a tiger over there. And obviously there are other tanks, so whenever I have the time I have a look over here. Just trying to figure out, is there someone over here coming to towards me? just trying to raise my situational awareness and how the map is currently looking, where the enemies are. You always have to have a look at it. It's more of a strategical choice and role than a tactical. You're not doing much work yourself. Most of the time you're just looking around, trying to figure out a hole in the enemy defense and where you can spot them. Maybe even when you can advance or flank them. For example, all the time I'm thinking about flanking and destroying that VT Panzer IV because I can do that easily. But I'm not doing it. I know the Panther's there. I know that there's more than that because the T-44 died over there. So I'm not doing it. But I'm also keeping the city in mind all the time. Something special for scouts. Always have the map big enough to see everything. My minimap mod also shows me which tank is where or was last spotted. That is something really nice to see. There you see again. Conqueror comes out. T-54 over there. This is currently what I'm looking at. Aiming at the tank, but not doing anything. Never, never, ever. Never, ever. Unless you know that you're spotted, fire your gun. Never, ever. Unless you know that you're spotted, or unless you know that you can take out the tank and it's the only tank in the vicinity. If you're 100% sure, and I mean 100% sure, never ever fire your gun in a scout, especially when you're in a bush and nobody sees you. So you can already see I'm pretty much just spotting everyone, keeping everyone spotted. Conqueror got a really nice hit there. That really helps me. Artillery is supporting me really nice here. And that is the next thing. What you want to do in a scout is platoon with 2 artilleries or tank destroyers, but mostly artilleries, because they will support you all the time. They're in your platoon. You got a platoon chat. Hopefully you got TeamSpeak, Skype or something like that, some voice comm. And you can see this. I'm looking around all the time, keeping my situational awareness up. T-54E1 is going to sooner or later drive up the A line. Vice versa, at the same point, Conqueror and Panther they won't stand around all the time. They will move a little bit. I don't know when it will happen, but they will. And that's basically it. Now, scouting is always very dependent on your team. Will always be like that. And that's basically it. Another good example. Good side shots on the T-54. I can penetrate him from here. I'm not firing. I'm not even turning my turret anymore. I have the right mouse button hold down, so I don't have to move my turret. Spotting the AMX-12T here. Also, just not gonna shoot. I'm just gonna sit here. Now I'm doing the request button, pressing T to get my allies to shoot them. There we go. Spotting the Panther. Again, pressing T just to get the attention of my team towards their target. That's basically all I'm doing at the moment. And that's scouting. And the major point about scouting is, what I mentioned earlier, you have to be very, very patient about things. Here, again, taking the Jagdpanzer II as a target because it's in the open. And now I'm going to do something because this is what I said earlier. What a good scout always knows. I'm just looking around, seeing artillery is moving over there. And now it's time. That's an easy target for me. I take him out. 6th sense should pop up. There we go. I get moving because the T-54E1 is still there. Escape route. From the beginning, my escape route was down here, all the way up there into the city. There's no other escape route I could have chosen, so I chose this one to begin with. And now we come to the active part of the scouting, which is not really... This is more like rounding up the enemy team. I'm keeping my aim towards the T-54, for Christ's sake. What is wrong with me? But I'm also trying to get the artillery, because the T-54E1 is going to die anytime soon. I don't really care. So I'm going towards the artillery, taking that one out, hopefully. And that's basically about it. And coming back to the patience, this is everything you need. Like I did 163 damage. I'm not going to shoot the artillery when I spot it in a moment. Like here I'm spotting it. I'm also in range to shoot, but I decide not to shoot and instead let my enemies take it out. My allies take it out. I did 163 damage here, but I also did 4,900 and something sporting damage. That's a big deal, I would say. A pretty big deal. It's not great. I could have done more, I guess, if the enemies would have been a little bit more aggressive and the T-69 wouldn't have been here or at all. But like that, I would pretty much get a lot of enemies killed here by having support from 1, 2, 3. I think the AMX was into town. I'm not sure about that. 3 tanks, I'd say, and artillery, and a light tank. And again, pure patience. I was sitting around there for what's that? Almost 7 minutes. Almost 7 minutes. I was just sitting around on the same spot all the time for 7 minutes. I wasn't doing anything else aside from looking around my tank, trying to figure out, is there someone there? Do I see any trees falling? Do I see anything? What's that in town? A tiger. I could shoot him. Wouldn't pen him, but I could shoot him. Interesting. Is he coming towards me? No, he's standing there. Alright. AMX-12T spotted. T target. There we go. He's down. And just these things. That's what you do as a scout. That's passive scouting for you, of course. Active scouting, I'm going to talk about that a little bit later along the lines. What else is there to say? Nothing much. That's basically it. You get to a Bosch. You have to know the maps, of course. You have to know where enemies go. For example, I know for sure that if enemies are on this field, they either camp in the very rear or they're going to drive all the way over here, over the mountains. They always do that. So I'm going down there and I can see them when they come up here. I didn't spot the T-5041. He either was too fast or was driving on the red line. But I spotted so many of them from all the way down there. That's all you have to do. You have to know the maps. You have to know the choke points and how to spot them without getting killed. And that's the whole thing. There's no magic behind it, really. Just pure logic. Alright, that's already it about passive scouting. Not much else to say. You should always know there's always a point in the game where you might want to relocate or where you might want to risk something or by going into the offensive. Especially in a tank like this. And some positions, like the position I took, is pretty risky because sometimes enemy tanks have the desire for some reason to go down there and get killed by the snipers up here. But obviously they would get me spotted and then I'm dead too. So it has some meaning to their death. That's it. Passive scouting. The very basics to it. You could go on and on, like put on the camouflage for the, I think it's 2% or 3% more camo. Know how to active scout, which I'm going to deal with in another video. Yep, that's about it. See you next time.